In the 1856 elections, the Republican Party did extraordinarily well for a new political party, coming just 3 states shy of capturing the presidency. And the 3 northern states it lost had a large block of moderate voters who disliked the Democrats but were even more opposed to agitating the slavery issue. So in 1860, the Republicans were in the market for a moderate, and the journalist and activist Fitz Henry Warren spoke for many when he said, "I am for the man who can carry Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Indiana with this reservation, that I will not go into cemetery or catacomb. The candidate must be alive and able to walk, at least from parlor to dining room." Enter Abraham Lincoln, who was alive, able to walk, and unlike William H. Seward, was primarily known for opposing slavery in the territories rather than slavery per se. Reacting to Lincoln's nomination, the New Orleans Bee called it a signal manifestation of their determination to avoid extremes and a masterstroke of political craft. Mr. Lincoln belongs to the moderate wing of the Black Republicans. He was formerly a Whig member of Congress and then but slightly tinctured with anti-slavery notions. As far as abolitionist Wendell Phillips was concerned, the tincture had been so slight as to be non-existent. His editorial in The Liberator was titled, "Abraham Lincoln, the Slave-Hound of Illinois." We gibbet a Northern hound today, side by side with the infamous Mason of Virginia. Mason's slave bill is based on that clause of the United States Constitution which provides for the surrender of slaves escaping from one state into another state of the Union. The Supreme Court of the United States has decided that the District of Columbia is not a state within the meaning of the Constitution. The District of Columbia is not, therefore, included in the terms of the Fugitive Slave Clause. Whoever tries to extend the dominion of that clause over the District of Columbia exhibits only his own voluntary baseness, can have no pretense of constitutional obligation, out-Masons Mason, and stamps himself a hound of special alacrity. This deed Abraham Lincoln, Republican candidate for president, has done. Here are the facts. Extract of a bill introduced by Honorable Abraham Lincoln in the U.S. House of Representatives, January 10, 1849. Section 5. That the municipal authorities of Washington and Georgetown, within their respective jurisdictional limits, are hereby empowered and required to provide active and efficient means to arrest and deliver up to their owners all fugitive slaves escaping into said district. Mr. Lincoln, in order to introduce this bill, requested the House to reconsider the vote, instructing the Committee on the District of Columbia to report for abolishing the slave trade therein. Mr. Lincoln, in urging his request, said he had submitted his proposition to various leading citizens of the District of Columbia who gave it their unanimous approval. No wonder Mr. Lincoln is unwilling to make any opposition to the Fugitive Slave Bill. No wonder the Chicago Convention omitted that point in their resolutions. Their standard-bearer has a worse bill to answer for than even Mr. Mason. The New York Tribune affirms that Mr. Lincoln stands on his record and has no wish to alter any part of it. We wait to know of Republican journals where to draw that line, which shall allow us all our indignation against Mason and yet save the fame of their candidate. Phillips also pointed out that in voting to reconsider the House's vote instructing the Committee of the District of Columbia to abolish the slave trade, Lincoln had sided with future Confederates Robert Toombs, Hal Cobb, and even the fire eater Robert Barnwell Rhett. Other parts of Lincoln's amendment stated that abolition would only take effect if approved by the residents of the district through a vote. It also emphasized a gradual approach where the emancipation would apply solely to children born to enslaved individuals after the passage of the act. It also exempted slaves owned by officials who were in Washington on public business from the provisions of the bill, and it aimed to encourage voluntary emancipation by offering the government's financial assistance for any slave whose owner in the district was willing to set them free. It's interesting to note that when another future president, John Tyler, was a senator from Virginia in the 1830s, he had tried unsuccessfully to prohibit the slave trade in the nation's capital, although he was a slaveholder. The issue of slave trading in the district was still festering by the time Lincoln served in Congress, although he sought to moderate its attempted abolition, which finally came to pass with the Compromise of 1850, by which time Lincoln was out of office. But it was his provision on returning fugitive slaves who sought refuge in the district that earned Lincoln the ire of Phillips in 1860. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Bee sounded calm, cool, and not altogether displeased with the Republican platform. Instead of breathing hatred and persecution against the South, instead of classing slavery with polygamy and resolving upon the annihilation of both as twin relics of barbarism, the Black Republicans denounced forays like that of John Brown in emphatic language, disclaimed the slightest intention of interfering with the institutions of the South, and confined the assertion of their peculiar tenets to the denial of the duty of Congress to protect slavery and to the expression of an opinion in favor of the immediate admission of Kansas into the Union. These are striking evidences of the power of popular sentiment in moderating the frantic zeal of faction. One can only wonder what might have been if more Southerners had clipped and saved both editorials to reread some 6 months later, when the frantic zeal of faction tore through the South in response to Lincoln's election, which was made inevitable by the fracturing of his opposition into 3 parties. As always, I've got additional context, and I do mean supplemental information, not a rehashing or transcript of the video, at my website. Click the link in the description below. And help this little channel keep growing by hitting that like button, subscribing, commenting with your thoughts, and sharing with anyone who might be interested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.